When there's something strange in your neighborhood, who you gonna call? Your local science talk radio. Welcome to Fudge the Data.
Science will save the day. Science, let's shout hooray. The world gets better every day because of science. Science!
Wow! Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Fudge the Data.
Ooh.
It's our Halloween spooktacular episode. So, we're gonna bring you some amazing Halloween feats. What are we gonna talk about today, Loay?
We're gonna talk about witches, pumpkins, and stuff.
Yeah, witches, pumpkins, and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so Halloween just passed, what, a week ago? Less than a week ago.
Yeah, Friday, was it?
Friday, yeah. I'm not sure if any of you dressed up and went out for trick-or-treating or whatever you kids do on Halloween. But, yeah, I think this is going to be an exciting show. I'm excited to share some stuff about Halloween and other related stuff.
Yeah, so we're going to bring you a bit about the history of Halloween, a bit about, pumpkins, because everybody loves a good pumpkin on Halloween.
Pumpkin pie.
Maybe a bit about pumpkin pie. We're going to talk about what fear is, because, that's a big part of Halloween.
Yeah, oh yeah,
So what is fear? And then we're going to talk about some other crazy Halloween
Some crazy
things.
stuff.
Some crazy
really cool
stuff.
Oh, I just thought about this. I have a story to share with you guys, and when we'll get to that, we'll get to that when we get to that, yeah.
Okay, alright.
Yeah.
Well, I already look forward to that. Hopefully everyone else does as well. And I just broke something here, but that's
dropped
fine.
the soldier. Oh, I cannot drop the soldier.
So yeah, we're sorry we're a bit late on this one. As you said, Halloween has passed, but better late than never. We've had a bit of a 2-week hiatus here for various reasons.
We were on vacation in Hawaii for 2 weeks on the radio show.
You could say that. It certainly rained enough here.
Yeah.
But yes, it was reading week last week. The
Yeah.
sub was closed. We couldn't get in here to do our show,
Yeah.
but here we are this week. So we're doing our Halloween episode late, but it's still gonna be spooky. Still gonna be amazing. Scary, crazy.
Yeah, so do you want to start with talking about the history of Halloween and how it started and all that stuff?
That I most surely do.
Okay.
Halloween, as we all know, is called Halloween. But why is it called Halloween? That's pretty much the history of it.
Okay.
It comes from a Christian holiday called All Hallows Eve, which is part of a triad of days, including All Hallows Eve, All Saints Eve, and All Saints Day. And that equals the Hallowtide. So that's the time of Christian tradition in remembrance of the dead.
Okay.
So the time is in Christian theology to remember the dead, those 3 days, and they occur at Halloween, the day before, the day after.
Okay.
And traditionally, in the Christian world, the focus of these days is to remember the dead, but to do it through humor. And by using humor, you can confront death. You can understand it a little better, and you can not feel as afraid, especially in Christian theology with going to heaven and all that.
Or hell.
Or hell. Well, you should be afraid of that if you're Christian. But the understanding of Halloween, in this Christianized sense, is that it's actually been a Christianized version of a Celtic tradition.
Oh, really?
An old Celtic harvest festival called Samhain, which is spelled completely differently than how it's pronounced, but that's how
I
it's...
imagine.
Yeah, it's Celtic. Samhain in the Celtic tradition was a day to mark the end of the harvest. And it would also mark the beginning of the darker days of the year, which means winter.
Okay.
And during this period, as you would expect from what we have today, the Celts believed that... if Celt is the proper... I believe it is. I'm not sure. Celtics? I don't know. Celtics, if anyone knows, let me know. But they believed that this period, this Samhain, it allowed the spiritual realm to be a lot more embodied on Earth. It allowed fairies and the like to easily cross over into the mortal realm, I guess you would say. And this was a time in Celtic belief where the souls of the dead could visit houses. And in fact, in Celtic tradition, places were often set for these dead spirits or other spirits, set for them at the dinner table. And then they would come to their houses, and theoretically there would be a place for them to eat.
Ah.
Which is kind of cool. Especially when you think of today's, trick-or-treating.
Yeah. That is interesting, yeah. It's interesting that it's a kind of a Christian tradition, but back in the islands, the Virgin Islands, people don't celebrate Halloween just because they say it's a pagan holiday,
really?
and they they freak out about it. It's like, oh my god, Halloween, don't even mention it.
Well, exactly, yeah. The Celtic tradition would have been
I guess the Celtic
pagan,
part of it,
pagan tradition, and I'm not sure how much of it is Christian and how much of it is Celtic, but it seems like most of it's Celtic.
Yeah, but definitely today it's a big holiday, Christian or not. It's it's a very commercialized holiday like Christmas now. So there's lots of the businesses are crazy on Halloween, and kids enjoy it and all that stuff. So it's a good holiday all around.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things that everybody knows about with Halloween. You dress up, you go to people's houses, you say trick or treat, you cut pumpkins into crazy gross faces and stick lanterns in them. So we're going to try and explore these things a bit. I don't know how much you have of these things. I know I have a couple points on them, but just things that we can talk about, because these are all things that make up Halloween, but it's like, where did they come from? What do they mean? What are they actually doing there?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you a bit more about what pumpkins and all that stuff is, because around Halloween, around this time in October, is the season for pumpkins and gourds and all that stuff. So pumpkins, gourds, squashes, zucchinis are all part of a family called Cucurbitaceae. Cucurbitaceae.
All right, there it is. There it is. Close enough.
Yeah, so it's a big family. It has about 700 species in total. Cucumber is also in that family. So cucumber and pumpkins are fairly related in the same family. And they're split into mainly two different groups. One is called the tender or summer fruits, the summer or tender fruits, and then they have the later winter fruits that are harder, like pumpkins.
Mm-hmm.
So in the summer you have things like squash, zucchinis, cucumbers, and later in the winter you have the gourds and all that stuff. And they've been used for since prehistoric times for many things. Including like the loofahs. The traditional loofahs are actually kind of gourd.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're not a sponge?
No, not a sea sponge at all.
Oh,
actually, I've seen many loofah plants. It grows like a large gourd, the longitudinal gourd, and you let it dry on the plant. And you just pick it, peel it, and inside you have a big loofah, and you just use it for the shower. It's really cool.
Wow, just right off the plant.
Yeah, you just pick it and peel it, and you're good to use it. Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
really cool.
Yeah, and they've been used to make musical instruments, to make water jugs. The outside gets hardened, so it becomes fairly tough. To make jewelry, artwork, musical instruments, like I said. So it's been part of lots of cultures for many years. And of course for feeding, for eating, and feeding animals as well. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And as we all know, pumpkins are now used for, jack-o'-lanterns. You carve them, you put them out on your doorstep. And it's believed that this kind of tradition started in Ireland and Scotland, actually.
Okay.
And there they used turnips, of all things.
Of course.
Of course, yeah, exactly. So yeah, they did the same kind of thing. They used turnips, and they carved them out, and they carved faces on them. And they believed that by using these turnips, they would actually ward off evil spirits. By carving a grotesque face into them, they would protect from the dead. When people started immigrating to North America, they were like, "Hey, there's pumpkins here. These are way better than turnips. What were we doing?" So they started using the native pumpkin when they got here instead. And there's a lot, as you know, there's a lot of Irish and Scottish people heritage in Canada, especially in the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they used pumpkins here when they got here, and we still use that today because it's awesome.
Yeah, can you imagine being the first guy to discover the pumpkin for carving? It's
man.
The biggest epiphany ever.
You're like, holy,
whoa!
Man, we've been using these gross, tiny, hard turnips. And beets they use as well. So, not the greatest.
Wow.
So yeah, but actually, something that's really cool about jack-o'-lanterns specifically is that you know how we put a little tea light in them.
Right.
We put a little light. And when the Irish and the Scottish people had carved turnips, they also used them as actual lanterns.
Okay.
So they would put a light in there, and they would have that as an actual lantern to guide people. But one of the really cool things, and the reason that it's actually called a jack-o'-lantern, is because the light was said to mimic this kind of eerie bluish glow that was over peat bogs. So this glow is called a WilloWisp, or also in other situations it's called the jack-o'-lantern.
Okay.
Because the will-o'-wisp was a guy named Will who would carry a wisp of light, which is what
Yeah.
was called the
Wow.
light, or in other colloquialisms, a guy named Jack who carried a lantern, which was the light above the peat bog. So this gross, well not gross, kind of just eerie, bluish, cool, glowing light that actually no one is really knows what it was.
Okay.
Even today. It occurs over peat bogs in Ireland and Scotland. And this light is also called the ignis fatuus, I think, which is called foolish fire. And what they think it is that there's a couple theories of what it might be. It might be the mixing of natural gases that have emitted from a peat bog, because there's lots of microorganisms and things growing in a peat bog. So it might be the mixing of the gases above it that create this color, this glowing light. It might also be something called cold flames. And cold flames are when compounds are heated to just below their ignition point. And this causes a kind of a glow or a chemoluminescence.
Wow.
Specifically, they think of maybe phosphate type compounds. Another thing that it might be is something called piezoelectricity. And this is something I had never heard of before, but it's actually pretty cool. And what they think it might be is that the heat from tectonic plates moving below the peat bog is actually heating up water in below the ground, and then this water is channeling electricity from below the surface towards the surface, and then that mixes with the atmosphere and creates an electric glow.
Wow.
And so that could be one of the things that causes this bluish glow.
Oh, that's amazing. How far? Okay, that's interesting. Cool.
Yeah, and there's also one more theory that it might just be bioluminescence, something from, say, a fungus. They say maybe a honey fungus, or it could just be, or it could have just been fireflies. And
fireflies.
People
That's a
that,
good one.
yeah, people that in the past wouldn't have known what that was.
Yeah.
So whether it's actually seen today or not, I'm not sure, but it's been well documented in the past. Whether it's folklore or fairy tale, I don't know. Okay. But it was called a WilloWisp or Jackalantern, and so the light that comes out of your Jackalantern, the flickering tea light, was said to mimic that kind of eerie glow of light, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that great?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of okay. Cool.
I don't know. Do you have anything else about gourds?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay. I got a bit more about history of Halloween, just for fun. If hopefully people aren't too sick of hearing my voice, because I'm kind of right now. Okay. The kind of the history of trick or treating.
Okay.
Because why are we doing that? It's kind of a weird thing when you actually sit down and think about it. It's like kids dress up and they go knock on doors and say trick or treat and get candy.
Does anybody ever trick instead of treat?
Ah, there you go. Now we're gonna get into that.
Okay,
and this
cool.
Is gonna be,
I've always wondered.
This is gonna be intense. We're gonna get crazy right now. Okay, so there's a couple things that happened in English history in England. One of the things, and these all three of these kind of play into where trick or treating comes from nowadays. One of the things were called mummers. Mummers were people who would put on silent plays, and they would go door to door and put on plays for small audiences. And what they would do is they would dress up in very elaborate masks, and they would go door to door or for small parties in the street and just perform these little silent plays that were based off Christian theology. I think something about saints.
Okay.
So they would perform these plays. So those were called mummers. Another group of people were called soulers. Soulers were usually children who would go door to door and ask for something called soul cakes. Now, soul cakes were just a normal cake, but they were kind of baked in a way. I mean, there was nothing really special about the actual cake. It's just that they were called soul cakes for this reason, and they were said to be christened for dead people. And so what the children would do is they would go door to door and they would go collect a soul cake from a person in their house, and in return, the children would pray for the dead. So that kind of ties in with it being All Hallows Eve. The children would go for a cake and pray for the dead.
Wow.
And a third group of people were called geysers. Geysers, not as in a sense of old geyser. What is it called? Something, I don't know. Old Faithful, not that kind of geyser.
Okay.
A geyser as in a mask, like a masked person, somebody in a guise.
Uh-huh.
So they would go out guising. And what these ended up being were children who would dress up and go door to door and ask for food or coins. Basically, they would just kind of beg, but they were all dressed up in fancy attire. Not fancy, more Halloween-esque attire, kind of ghoulish, goblin-y kind of things. So they would dress up and go ask for food or for coins. Generally, poor children would do this.
Okay.
Yeah. So what ended up happening a lot with geysers, especially in Ireland and Scotland, is that they would dress up in these elaborate, kind of scary costumes, and they would end up getting up to a lot of mischief because they would tend to embody whatever they were dressing up as. And so what ended up happening is, of course, they would go knock on the door and they would say trick or treat, theoretically.
Yeah.
The trick being, if you don't give us, like the trick or treat being, if you don't give us some food, we are going to get up to some mischief up in your house right now.
Poop in a paper bag and light it on fire.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's kind of interesting that it's kind of stemmed from a more violent place.
Oh, okay.
But
it's pretty peaceful now. I mean,
nobody really gets a trick anymore.
No. I maybe when I get my own house, I'll trick.
You'll trick some people?
I'll trick instead of treat.
What do you think you'll do to them?
I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Some trap doors and mirrors. I don't know. Some contraption.
Something very elaborate.
Yeah. And speaking of tricks, this is when people start to get scared and afraid, and a lot of interesting things start happening in our bodies when we get scared.
That they do.
Fear, as you know, the word fear is a physiological response in our body that's very essential to our survival and essential to the survival of a lot of other animals. Being afraid is something very good because when you're under stress or under danger, fear is kind of this response that allows you to get out of that situation or gives you that burst of energy or something to kind of allow you to get out of that situation. And that's
as fast as possible.
Exactly, as fast as possible. And that's when you have the flight or fight response. And the flight or fight response is a response to fear, is a physiological response to fear as a result of a harmful event, an attack, or a threat on your body.
Yeah, some kind of stressful stimulus out there.
Exactly. And what happens then, I'll give you the outcome. During a flight or fight response, your body produces a bunch of hormones that cause a lot of changes in the body. And as a result, you start getting an increased heart rate, you have more blood flowing through your body, you start having tunnel vision, so you start like only seeing things that are in front of you. Sometimes you get more focused. In some cases, you kind of lose hearing. This is part of tunnel vision, so you're only like focused on what's happening. Sometimes you get weak muscles in your legs. Sometimes you get weak bladder muscles, so that's why sometimes people pee themselves when they're really scared.
That makes sense. I guess because you kind of lose the ability to use any muscles that aren't for getting away.
Exactly. And not only that, the fear, that response is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. Or before that, it's controlled by the autonomic nervous system. And that part of the nervous system controls involuntary movement, like heart rate, breathing, urination, or the bladder movements and all that stuff. So when you get scared, for example, when somebody scares you on Halloween, the first thing that happens is your sympathetic nervous system, which is connected to your spinal cord, starts to get activated. And that goes down to your hypothalamus and the pituitary glands, and they start producing hormones like norepinephrine and other hormones that upregulate, get your heart beating faster, get more blood flowing. They increase your blood pressure, and then epinephrine also binds to parts of the liver, and that produces more glucose. And more glucose in your blood means you have more energy, so you're somewhat stronger, or you're more alert. So it's a state of alertness, a fear, or when you're scared, you get more into a state of alertness, and you're just like, what's going to happen next, you know? And that's when there's a split decision between fight or flight. Yeah. And depending on the person, I think it's a 50-50 response, is it? Or
What do you mean? Like 50-50 people who will run or who will...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or fight.
I guess it depends on the stimulus, really.
Yeah, but
if it's a bear, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know how many people are gonna fist fight
the bear.
that.
No, I mean like, what if you're running around? If you're going around and there's a bear just pops in front of you around a corner, you can do one of three things. You can just freeze, you can run away right away, or you can like punch it right away. And I think the three of those things are really random. Just like whichever takes over first happens first.
Really?
I think that's the way it happens. I'm not 100% sure, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, no, I can see that. You just kind of have your instinct.
And then once you kind of like you're a few seconds into it, your thought process starts to catch back to normal, and you're like, oh, maybe I should run, maybe I should fight. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, all that is interesting, of course. I don't know if you had mentioned, I don't know if I had just not heard, but epinephrine and norepinephrine, these are adrenaline, right?
Right.
That's what we commonly refer to as adrenaline. I'm not sure, do you know like if there's a difference between what we call adrenaline and what epinephrine and norepinephrine are?
That's a good question. Here, I'll look at my notes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that kind of thing. Because I'm not sure if we just call epinephrine / norepinephrine because they're two different hormones.
Well, the epinephrine is produced by the adrenal gland. Right?
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah, I think they both are, aren't they not?
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's all really interesting, of course. Parts of the brain actually that are involved in this are kind of interesting, and they make sense when you think about it. The parts of the brain, it kind of falls into a cascade of how your brain sends the signal. So it starts with the thalamus. So this part of the brain allows you to take in sensory data and then send that to the rest of your body, and then your body is able, or your brain, sorry, is able to respond to what that sensory data is telling it to do. So then it goes from the thalamus to the sensory cortex, where it is interpreted. So the sensory data gets accepted by the thalamus, sent to the sensory cortex to be kind of developed, and then it's sent to the hippocampus, where your conscious memory is. So this allows you to kind of establish a context for what you're interpreting, what you're taking in right now by your sensory data.
Right.
So then it's sent to the amygdala, which then decodes what your hippocampus has said. It decodes your emotions. It determines if there's an actual threat involved. And this area of the brain also stores memory. So the amygdala will allow you to take that context that you've developed through the hippocampus and see if there was actually some previous threat that was induced by this stimulus that's coming in. And then it's sent to the hypothalamus, which activates the fight or flight response and sends the whole cascade of hormones through your body. So the way that this kind of works in your brain is actually pretty interesting, because when you think about it, there's kind of two different responses to fear. There's an instant response, and then there's kind of a more thought-out response, quote unquote, by your brain. So what happens with the instant response, this is kind of the response where you're sitting in a dark room, you hear some kind of creak, and you instantly, your stomach drops, and you know that feeling when you're just instantly scared for no reason. You can later, 5 seconds later, be like, oh, that was just the window, or oh, that was just the movement of the wind or something. So that instant response, what happens is the stimulus is sent to the thalamus, which is then sent directly to the amygdala and then to the hypothalamus. So basically, what that means is the stimulus is interpreted by your brain, but then sent directly to basically saying it's a threat. So it's sent directly to the amygdala, which says there's a threat, which then immediately starts the fight or flight response. Right. And this is usually a weaker response, like your stomach just kind of drops, you get ready. But the more thoughtful response, it includes the whole brain cascade that I described earlier. It goes from the stimulus to the thalamus, to the sensory cortex, to the hippocampus, then to the amygdala, and to the hypothalamus. So basically what that means is that your instant response, your immediate stomach drop, just kind of preps you, says, okay, there might be something here. Then the more thoughtful response that takes a little longer can be like, okay, there's actually something here. We're getting this ready. We're getting you out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so but the more thoughtful response still happens within a very short period of time, like split seconds still, right? Or are you thinking more of
no,
seconds?
It's still very quick.
Okay,
it's
that makes sense because okay.
Yeah, because the more instant response, it's like you kind of immediately realize that it was no threat. But then if there actually is a threat, then you're going, wow, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, cool. And epinephrine is the same thing as adrenaline. I just saw it in my notes. Yeah, so it's
cool. Yeah. I'm glad. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's just it gets your body really pumped up and going. That's one of the main things. It just gets you really going.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's actually there's a whole bunch of other hormones involved in the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
From the pituitary gland, and this releases something called adrenocorticopic hormone, which I don't know. It's it basically just does, in addition to adrenaline, it does all the stuff that adrenaline would do. But there's also about 30 other hormones that are released and cascade through your body to create this intense response, especially if there is actually like a serious threat. Because there's different degrees of being afraid, of course,
for sure,
and different degrees of requirement for a fight or flight response, depending on what you're facing and what kind of actual danger you're in.
Yeah, I wonder if you grow up without getting damaged or getting scared by certain things like lions, for example, or things that you're usually scared of if you see around. How would you be scared of things if you grow up not being scared of anything?
Or a lot of the fear response is based on memory.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, children develop this response very quickly, and it sticks with you for your whole life.
All of it is response to pain, or
yeah, exactly. Response to pain, response to sickness, response to I don't know, making you feel bad. That kind of thing. But yeah, if you grow up without something, then you're not going to have that response. Look at the dodo. The dodo is your classic example of not being afraid of something and then getting screwed because of it. So basically, for anybody who doesn't know, the dodo was a bird. It lived on some island somewhere, and it had never seen humans before or any other predator. It had never had a predator in its life. So basically, when humans came to the island, these dodos just waddled up to them, and they were like, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" And we killed them all. We said, "Hey, these guys taste good," or something. And we killed them all, and they are now extinct.
Yeah. But there's also more like an evolutionarily intrinsic properties that, when you're walking around a corner and somebody jumps at you, that's like very intrinsic. You're going to get scared no matter what.
Yeah.
And some animals are born afraid of certain things. Like, you're afraid of your predators. You're a predator. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, well, you have to. Especially, it's very site-specific, you could say.
Yeah.
One group of one species will be afraid of something that another group of that same species who wasn't exposed to that something will not be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
It's very evolutionary, and it's very it's one of those things that is developed rather quickly. Within one exposure to something, you can get a learned fear of it.
Yeah. And then also when your situation is done, when you're finished being scared, the parasympathetic system, which kind of works in tandem with the sympathetic system, kicks in to kind of bring you back to the normal lower level of homeostasis, and that's when acetylcholine gets produced in the body and to kind of mellow you down. Yeah.
Cool. Well, something that always scares the bejesus out of me. I'll tell you.
What?
there it is. Thank you for helping me there. Witches. Who isn't afraid of witches?
Man, witches.
Unless you watch Buffy, like me, and then you love witches because
they're cool.
Because they're great. But I have just a couple of theories of where witches came from that I've loved. I learned about these a couple of years ago, and they've stuck with me. There's two of them that I'm going to go through. The first one is something called ergot of rye. Now, ergot of rye is this fungus that grows on rye plants, and it's a fungus called claviceps, genus claviceps, and they produce a toxic alkaloid, so some kind of toxic compound that they produce, and they're on this They're on the rye, and at one point in English history, they were so prevalent on rye that it was thought that they were a necessary part of the life cycle of rye plants, and not even that they were another species, that they were actually just the rye plant. That's how prevalent they were. And so basically what happens when you ingest this ergot of rye, this fungus, you can get something called ergotism. And so ergotism has two major forms, convulsive or gangrenous. So convulsive ergotism causes painful seizures, spasms, diarrhea, Paralysis. I don't know if that should be something else. My writing's not that great. Itching, mania, psychosis, headaches, nausea, and vomiting. And then gangrenous ergot of rye, or gangrenous ergotism, causes vasoconstriction, which basically means your veins constrict. And what this causes is skin peeling. You lose sensation in your fingertips and in your toes. It causes edema, and it causes necrosis, which is death of tissue. So basically, what was thought is that a lot of people that were said to have... sorry, he's getting a fire call right there. A lot of people that were said to have... who were said to be witches were actually people who just had ergotism, specifically convulsive ergotism, because this convulsive ergotism caused seizures, causes psychosis, caused mania. So basically people were running in the street yelling and spewing nonsense, and people would go, oh my god, yeah, exactly, she's a witch, burn her! So a lot of people ended up being accused of being bewitched because they had convulsive ergotism, which is it's pretty terrifying. There was a study done that linked areas of high prevalence to of ergotism with areas of high prevalence of witch trials, which is it's a crazy thing to think of, and it's thought that the Salem witch trials were due mainly to ergotism as well. The second theory I have is the one that's kind of interesting. It's why witches these days are depicted riding broomsticks. All right, if you're ready for this, are you ready for this?
Okay.
All right. So what it's thought is that there's a plant called jimsonweed that is hallucinogenic. So it produces a hallucinogenic drug-like effect, and it's only hallucinogenic when it's applied to mucous membranes. Okay. And when you do this, it provides vivid hallucinations. It provides delirium, and it provides a sense of amnesia. Okay. So you kind of forget yourself and you get lost in these vivid hallucinations. So the way that women would apply this to themselves, because it was apparently used predominantly by women when it was prevalent, was that it was applied using a wooden paddle or some kind of wooden device to the vagina. So it was applied in some kind of masturbatory way, and then it would elicit these vivid hallucinations. Wow. So they would use the wooden implementation to provide this vivid hallucination, this hallucinogenic effect. And that's said to be riding the broomstick. Wow. So that's and then they would have these crazy hallucinations. I guess the flying and getting high is kind of flying on the broomstick. So they would fly high, they'd get high, and then that's where riding the broomstick came from. And people obviously thought they were witches because they were having a time.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's very interesting. That's so cool. Yeah. Another thing that really scares me is vampires.
Ooh, yes, of course.
I'm not sure if there's another history of vampires, but I've read about this this thing here that it's believed that vampires were inspired by this disease here. It's called porphyria, and what it is the lack of your body to produce heme, the heme part of the hemoglobin. So it makes your skin very sensitive to sunlight, causes a lot of necrosis of tissue. Your gums start to get necrotized. And it causes tightening around your eyes and around your mouth, and because you're very sensitive to the sun, you're prone to stay inside, and you don't want to see the sun. You get very pale, and people tend to start losing their teeth. The incisors start to fall out first. You're leaving you with the canines, so it gives you that look that you have really large canines, and then the skin around your mouth starts to tighten. pronouncing the canines even more exactly, the fangs.
Huh.
And then you have a lot of deformities in your skin and your eyes, so you look almost like a vampire. And people still suffer from that disease nowadays. It's a very physically challenging disease, and a lot of them have developed emotional stresses as well. They're mentally fine, but it's just because the way they look and the way they feel every day is terrible. They believe that vampires came from that, or the inspiration for vampires came from that disease. And an interesting thing about it is, if you eat garlic if you have that disease and you eat garlic will make that disease a lot worse. There are substances in the garlic that will make it a lot worse. So that's another kind of like interesting fact about garlic. Yeah.
Man, it's crazy how everything ties in.
Yeah. So like there's the sun, you can't go out in the sun, and you eat garlic and you have the fangs. It's a devastating disease, but it's some people say it's the kind of the inspiration to vampires.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the blood sucking came from.
Well, I had always heard that vampires were inspired by Vlad the Impaler, who was a conqueror back long ago, who would he'd obviously impale his enemies, but then he would also drink the blood of his enemies.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, maybe some bunch of stuff tied in together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's always a whole tie-in of a whole bunch of different things to get our kind of mythologies. Because we as North Americans borrow from everyone else.
Yeah.
Since we have a bit of everything.
I wonder what mythologies are going to be like maybe 100 years from now. What kind of stuff are we brewing right now for the next 100 years?
Something crazy.
Yeah.
Probably involving terrorists and Ebola.
Ebola.
Yeah. That's a lot of Ebola. Any other crazy scary things?
Okay, so I have like Halloween is full of really scary stories, some of which might be true, some of which are not true, some are exaggerated. But there's a few things that actually happened. They've been reported on several cases, medically, psychologically, that kind of spook me out and spook a lot of people out. I'll start with the first one. The first one is I've had a personal experience with this one. This is my story for this.
All right, bring it in.
It's called sleep paralysis. And for those of you who don't know what that is you can experience it in several ways. The first one is you can be sleeping and you wake up and you cannot move your body at all for a few minutes. Sometimes it goes longer, sometimes shorter. And it ranges from feeling like there's hands on your chest, like pushing down, to knowing that there's somebody watching you in the room, or feeling the presence of something in the room. It can be, you're sleeping, you're dreaming, and you're trying to wake up, but you're not able to wake up. That's a very interesting one. I had a friend who experienced that. He was not able to wake up. Like he felt like he was shouting and moving, but he was just like not able to wake up. He was stuck in the sleep, and he knew he was stuck in the sleep. That was really interesting.
Wow, that'd be terrifying.
Yeah. But sleep paralysis, one time I experienced that. And what I experienced is I was sleeping, and then I was having a dream about aliens. And then I woke up, I was laying on my back, I opened my eyes, and I felt like there was aliens in the room. And then, like a second later, I felt like two hands, literally, like it felt like two hands were pushing down on my chest, and I could not move.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
it was like probed. I don't think this was a dream, man. I'm pretty sure you just got probed.
No, and then I looked it up after, so it's fine. But anyways,
it's fine.
It felt like there was two hands on my chest pushing down, and I could not move.
Wow.
And in most cases, I heard, if you look down on your feet to see where the hands are coming from, you see a figure of almost like a witch or a really like ugly figure crawling up your feet. I did not see that, thankfully. I would have freaked the hell out. But yeah, in most cases, if you look down on your feet, you see something crawling up. I was so scared. Like I knew there was something in the room, and then it just kind of like clicked, and there was nothing, and it was all fine. Wow. And then I slept with the door open for like months after. It was really bad.
Jeez.
Yeah, but some people, in some cases, it gets really severe. Some people feel like their hands and feet are being held, and they see people actually watching them. They see things floating around the room. Yeah, it gets really intense.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's linked to several things: stress, brain damage or trauma. Certain brain diseases can cause that. So it's very interesting.
That it is.
Yeah. So if you ever wake up not being able to move, just relax, breathe, and maybe don't open your eyes in case something pops up.
I don't know. My imagination might be worse than.
Man, it's. I never believed it until it happened to me, and it was like, oh my god.
See, now it's gonna happen to me tonight. I just know it.
Yeah, but see, it's not like one of those things like, oh, now I'm gonna dream about it. It's just it happens because of something in your brain. I don't know what it was. I wasn't stressed. I've never banged my head against anything really badly. I don't know. Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, so the other thing now is called achinotopsia, and what that is, it's a brain disease, a neurophysiological disorder where people see things in frames per second. You know how we have like fluid motion? When you move your hand, you see it moving in fluid motion. Mm-hmm. With that disease, you see things not in fluid motion, but more like
stills?
Stills, exactly. And depending on the severity, you can skip like 5 seconds, you can skip 2 minutes, whatever.
Wow.
So you only see stills, you do not see motion. Huh. And if it's severe enough, you can be sitting in a room, and there's somebody there, and then all of a sudden, you don't realize that it's a minute or whatever. You just see things all of a sudden, and all of a sudden that person is gone, or there's something else in the room. So you don't see the motion, you just see stills every 2 seconds, every 3 seconds, or whatever. And a lot of the people who experience this highly believe in alien abduction. They believe that, hey, I was just hanging out with my friend, or I was just looking at this, and it was gone all of a sudden, and then it was back, or something like that.
Huh.
The cool thing about it is most of the people are not born with this, so you can grow up most of your life without having this, and then all of a sudden you develop this, and that's why you start believing that it's aliens or something. I got something happened to me, and now I'm all messed up. But the reason for this is lesions on your brain. It causes pressure in certain parts of the brain that allows this to happen to you.
Wow. So does it last like it's permanent almost?
I don't know actually. Yeah. Let me see. Let me read here.
Because I wonder if it just happens a couple times and then it kind of passes, or if it's something that sticks with you, because that'd be very debilitating.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's permanent or not, but yeah, it's because of lesions on the brain. I'm not sure if there's medication for it to make it less worse, or therapy. Certain antidepressants, if you take them regularly, can cause this as well. So
wow.
Yeah.
Huh. That's pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say.
Yeah. The other disease I'm really interested about is called Morgellons. Have you ever heard about it?
Never.
Okay, so with this disease, it's also a psychotic disease, where you're absolutely convinced that you have things crawling on your skin, under your skin, and in your body. You feel biting, you feel crawling, you feel pinching, and you sometimes you see things moving, like you see your skin rising, and you try to get them out. You start scratching your arms, scratching your legs, and it's a severe disease because people end up wounding themselves really badly because they're convinced there's things crawling under their skin. So they scratch themselves and they get infections and cause a lot of bleeding. That's the physical part of the disease that's really bad.
Yeah, well, that's a symptom of drug use too.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Exactly. So if you're heroin, a lot of the opiates cause those hallucinations for sure. That's why a lot of the opiate addictive people, dependent people, have a lot of scratches on their skin. Yeah. So yeah, there's about 14,000 people in the world suffering from this disease now. And
wow.
Yeah. I'm not sure if there's a cure for it or not, or if much is known about it. But there's a big controversy about it as well, that aliens actually are embedded these nanotechnologies in our skins that sometimes malfunction or sometimes they activate, and that causes these hallucinations.
Yeah, that's true, actually. That's 100% true.
Yeah, so...
That's all aliens. Why does everybody blames everything on aliens?
Gosh darn.
These guys really get around.
Yeah, so that's another interesting disease.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know something else that really scares me, though?
What?
Getting away from aliens and their diseases. Zombies.
Ooh,
classic.
Oh, zombies. Okay, this is going to be cool. Okay.
Classic. Everybody knows about zombies. As far as human zombies, I don't know. But there's a sweet fungus that is called the zombie ant fungus.
Uh-huh.
It's called Orpheocordyceps unilateralis.
Ooh.
And I did a project on this in evolution. Yes. So it's actually pretty cool. It's called the zombie ant fungus. And basically what it does is it's able to control ants. So what happens is these ants that live in the canopy of a tree.
Yeah.
When they move between trees, they have to go along on the ground. And when they go along on the ground, they have a chance of picking up the spore of this fungus, this zombie ant fungus. So what happens is the ant picks up the spore on its body somewhere, and what the spore ends up doing is it produces a whole bunch of enzymes, and then it uses these enzymes and mechanical action to actually break the exoskeleton of the ant and go inside into the body of the ant, where it starts to develop. It starts to produce mycelium, the little finger-like projections of a fungus that allow it to feed. So the fungus begins to grow in the ant, and what happens when the fungus begins to grow is it actually begins to hijack the system of the ant that allows it to move. And so the ant ends up falling from the canopy if it had made it that far, or if it hadn't, it just kind of stumbles and walks around. It almost looks drunk.
Yeah.
So it stumbles around like a zombie, and then as the fungus continues to develop, it actually begins to be able to control the ant.
Yeah.
So what happens is that the fungus causes the ant to walk up a tree or up a stem.
Just keep going up.
Yeah. So it goes up the tree, and then it finds finds a leaf or some kind of substrate, usually a stem or a leaf or something like that. And what it does is it causes the ant to bite. So the ant will actually bite into whatever substrate it's on. And then what happens once it's bitten is the fungus then begins to digest the muscles that control the mandibles, the mouth parts, and so then the mouth parts the muscles controlling the mouth parts get digested, and so they're stuck in the closed position, and this is called a lockjaw or a death grip,
right?
As what it's called in colloquial terms for this fungus. So the ant is stuck in the death grip, stuck onto the leaf. And then what happens is that the fungus continues to grow inside this ant, and the ant is alive this entire time.
Yeah.
So at this point, once it's locked, the fungus fully takes over the ant body and kills the ant, and then develops a little spore holding little bulbous thing. So yeah, sure, sporophyte. You're the fungus man. So what happens? what happens is it actually breaks through the head of the ant, and then develops this reproductive system outside of the ant body, right over the head, and then it releases its spores onto the ground to continue its life cycle.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty crazy system of hijacking another your host species' actual ability to move and control itself.
You basically control the body of another organism. Yeah. That's really cool.
It takes over, and I wonder how it knows.
Yeah, and I saw a bunch of videos also about this happens in several different species of insects as well, and caterpillars too. And the video was beautiful. Just the caterpillars kind of arch up, and then they dry in that state, and then the fungus the spores disperse that way. A lot of it has to do with the fungus messing up certain parts of the brain of the insect or part of the nervous system that allows the insects to function. I know there's not a fungus, it's a certain parasite that affects crickets. And what it does is it affects their part of their nervous system that makes them thirsty. So the crickets, they get severely thirsty. And they just keep going to sources of water. And the parasite reproduces only in water when there's a very high moisture concentrations. So it keeps driving the crickets to go closer to the water. And what happens is they're so thirsty all the time, they kind of just jump in the water and drown. And when they drown, the parasite gets a chance to come out of the cricket's anus and actually reproduce that way.
Yeah, I think it was a nematode. I think
I've
heard of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, something like that that's able to actually hijack the body of a host organism. Yeah, and the zombie ant fungus is a classic example. It's one of the more well-known ones. And of course, zombie. Scary.
Yeah, well, hey, maybe there's something like that for humans. Maybe someday we'll have actual zombies walking around.
Yeah, well, I hope not. There was the Ebola zombie scare. Did you hear about that?
No, what?
Oh my god. There was some. We don't even want to go into it. You know what? If you find that interesting, you can go look it up. It's very silly. Some people were claiming that Ebola was making zombies, and they dressed up in Walking Dead outfits. Oh god. All right, we're gonna. On that great note, we're gonna jump into one of our games, I believe.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure, we're gonna jump in. All right. Okay.
Well, some drugs can actually make you zombies too. Remember that time when that dude ate the other guy?
Oh yeah, bath salts.
Bath salts,
when he ate his face.
Oh man, and that's
That was
so
scary.
the bath salts mess with your brain. And
There was a huge zombie scare when bath salts were coming.
Yeah, I know. It's like
Yeah.
people were freaking out every time they saw something weird.
Yeah, all across the globe was another zombie.
Yeah.
There's another zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
So
Game time.
game time. Yeah. So we're gonna get away from our more info-based section of our Halloween episode and get into our more nonsense section for our last 10 minutes here. So we're gonna start with Would You Rather. We played this a couple times.
All right. Yeah.
So today it's gonna be Would Loay rather. So I'm gonna ask him a couple Would You Rather scenarios, and he's gonna ask me some questions. And
Okay.
I haven't picked the right answer yet, but
I'm
I'll
ready.
pick one as we go. I think I got it now. All right. So this is your Would You Rather scenario. You ready?
Okay.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Would you rather
Okay.
have convulsive ergotism once a month but never die, or be woken up every hour by creepy Halloween noises?
Oh. Okay. Explain what convulsive ergotism is.
Wow. Were you not listening to me during the witches section?
No. I have to explain it in more detail.
Like convulsive ergotism is like seizures, mania, psychosis,
But
delirium, nausea.
and you said
spasms,
every hour.
diarrhea. No. Once a month.
Once a month.
But
How bad? Like how badly is it?
You kind of just go crazy for
like.
let's give you like 3 days, 4 days.
Oh.
4 days a month. You're
being just a witch.
Worse than.
Uh.
You're seizing. You've got constant diarrhea and vomiting.
But just once a month.
Mania. Yeah, 4 days a month.
4 days a month. You know that sounds like never mind. Okay, so that or being awoken by Halloween noises, spooky Halloween noises.
Creepy Halloween noises.
Oh god, like creaking in the. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
creaking.
not creaking.
Creaking.
There's gonna be creaking involved.
There's obviously going to be creaking. There's going to be some.
No. Some scratches on the walls.
Some scratches. Some window scratches specifically.
Oh man, okay.
But I mean, you can fall back asleep.
Yeah, but it's like once that happens to me, I'm done for the night.
I don't know. Yeah.
Gonna watch some Teletubbies or something.
Calm me down.
Okay, will I be in that month, like if when it happens every month, will I be able to like tell people about it so they know and they help me out
Oh, yeah,
and
of
stuff?
course.
Okay, cool. And will people believe me if I tell them I'm being awoken by Halloween noises every hour?
They're kind of like, oh, yeah, okay.
Whatever.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Can I take sleeping medication and put earplugs in so I don't hear the Halloween noises, or is it in my head?
Yeah, you can put earplugs in, but I mean, you still hear it. It's the kind of
It's
thing.
still like
I'm not sure if it's actually in your head,
because
because that would be kind of scary, even more so.
Okay.
But it's still there. It's always there.
It's like,
A little rat-a-tat on the door.
Okay. All right. So that's okay. That's good.
When it's really bad, it's fingers on the chalkboard.
Oh
Ooh.
no! Well, the convulsive stuff is starting to sound more appetizing now because.
Is it? You want to seize up and?
Well, I don't want to seize up. I don't want fingers on a chalkboard for every hour. Oh man, I'm starting to tingle about that now. Even.
I know, isn't that bad?
Yeah. And how? Okay, are both of these for a lifetime or just for?
Yeah, they're for the rest of your life.
Well, okay, it would suck having seizures when you're old.
Yeah, I'm sure they would be.
It would also
pretty
suck
damaging.
not being able to sleep when you're old.
Yeah, more. I don't know which would be worse.
No, but it's once a month, right?
Once a month, 4 days a month.
Maybe you'll get used to it. You said 3 days earlier.
No, I changed it.
Oh, okay, 4 days a month now.
Yeah.
And will I know which 4 days of the month is it? Like, will I know, like, it's the end of the month for 4 days? Will I?
It changes every month. Sometimes it's consecutive. Sometimes
Oh my
it's
god!
spotty.
So it can end up being like 8 days in a row, beginning and end of.
Oh yeah, it could.
Oh
yeah.
my god!
Yeah.
Okay, well that sounds bad.
Yeah, it's always random.
Huh. So it's spotty sometimes.
Yeah, it can be like one day.
Like once a week kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
But you can always kind of feel it
Sense
the
it,
day
yeah.
before it's
Okay.
gonna happen. You don't really know. After, I mean, it would be a while before you realize that that's what you're getting at. But
Yeah. Okay. I don't like that. I'm actually scared of that. Like, well, I mean, I guess it would be like kind of having a cold. You know you're getting a cold, you know it's going to be bad, and then you're like, having a cold, then you're fine.
It's way worse than a
But
cold.
it's way worse than a cold, yeah, exactly.
It's a psychotic episode.
Will you be able to remember what happened to you?
Yeah, always.
Okay, so it just haunts you, like, after.
You can't always control it.
Okay. And with the noises, is it going to be the same noise, the same group of noises, or is it always going to be, new noises?
No, it's all found on a soundtrack of...
Okay.
It's like 30 Halloween noises.
Okay, I think we're going to make a decision now because we have 5 minutes.
Alright,
I would rather be woken up by the Halloween noises.
Alright, that's the correct answer.
Oh, okay, thank God.
Yeah, it would be pretty creepy though.
Yeah, especially waking up to freaking nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah. Cat
haven't
meowing.
heard that in a while. Cat meowing? Don't even
scary or screeching.
Don't even, man. I had I had the worst nightmare as a kid. It was a recurring nightmare of a cat ripping my face off.
Oh my goodness.
I had it every single night. It got so bad to a point where I was afraid of falling asleep because of that nightmare. Yeah, and then one day I just didn't have it, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't have the nightmare, and then I just never had it since.
Wow.
Yeah. It was so bad. I'm telling you, I was afraid to fall asleep because I didn't want to have that nightmare.
Hopefully this this doesn't impede that at all.
Swear to God if it does.
I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. So for our last couple minutes here, I guess we'll play a new game. I don't know how far we'll get into it because we're running out of time. Should we even bother? Should we do it next week?
You know what? Let's do some good trivia questions. I can ask you.
Okay, yeah, sure. We'll do we'll do the new game next week.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
We'll keep you in suspense.
Okay.
So just do one or two trivia questions.
Okay, this one is a pretty easy one. Well, kind of easy one. Oh, what's another name for pumpkin? Pumpkin is not a botanical name. What's the botanical name for pumpkin? Not the species or anything.
Oh, well, I would guess like a winter squash.
Okay, squash is right. First part is not.
Really?
Think what color?
Orange squash?
Yeah.
Really?
Orange squash is the botanical name for pumpkin.
Really?
Yeah. I was okay. Cool.
Weird. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know why, but that's pretty pretty pathetic name. Orange squash.
Yeah.
Aren't lots of squashes orange? I thought most of them were orange.
No, pumpkin is the only orange one. Pumpkin and gourds, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Squash, yeah.
Well, squash soup is orange, but I guess the inside.
Yeah, but the
orange.
inside, yeah.
The outside's white, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, which was invented first? The telephone, the light bulb, or the microwave oven?
The telephone, the light bulb, or the microwave oven?
Or just microwave.
Or the
microwave oven.
The microwave oven. Telephone, light bulb, or microwave oven?
Shit. Okay. Well, the microwave, not microwave oven, because all microwave ovens had light bulbs in them.
Do they?
Well, before they all did, I think.
Oh, I have no idea.
The microwave. Before they had a microwave.
Okay,
ovens.
well now I'm gonna say microwave because you've been so adamant.
Think about it. It's not microwave.
Okay, well.
Which was invented first, telephone or light bulb?
I'm going to say telephone.
That's right.
All right. Cool.
The light bulb was invented, I think, 25 years after the telephone.
That late?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, well, another question.
All right, we have
the last one, yeah. What is the meaning of the aviation term Mach 1?
Mach 1?
Mm-hmm.
How is it spelled?
M-A-C-H.
M-A-C-H.
1. Or like Mach 2, Mach 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a really good question. I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So Mach 1 means speed of sound. Mach
Really?
2 means you're double the speed of sound. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I knew that one when I saw it. I was like, oh, Mach 1, right? Speed of sound.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'd never thought about that.
Yeah.
Mach 10.
Mach 10. That's fast. I think spaceships go to like Mach 10 or something.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
They'd have to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
we're gonna.
Oh, I wanted to talk about neutrinos and how they go through the walls like ghosts.
Oh.
Well, neutrinos go through walls like ghosts.
All right, there we go. Tidbit of science to end us off. Look up what a neutrino is if you want. I don't know.
Okay, well, we're out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for listening. And next week we'll have a new exciting show with a new exciting game.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We'll actually get to play it, hopefully.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have a guest next week, too.
Oh, we could do... Maybe we should do that. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for listening to this delayed but spooky, I guess, episode of Halloween. Halloween episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for listening, and see you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.